The miniseries Logan is my favorite Wolverine story of all time, and I want to tell you about why. This book was published in 2008. It's written by Brian K Vaughan with line art by Eduardo Risso and color art by Dean White. It's only 3 issues long. It's a very short, compact story, but it packs a lot of punch in those 3 issues. So, with that, I'm going to overthink Logan. So Logan is a 3-issue series. It came out shortly after House of M, in which Wolverine regained his memories that were lost due to all of the Weapon X program and everything that messed with his mind. And all these memories come flooding back, and this story deals with one memory in particular that current day Wolverine goes and seeks out to find out more about. And the story takes place in 2 time frames, both in the present day and also in the very last days of World War II in Japan. And that portion of it deals with a pre-adamantium Logan before he's Wolverine. He has his mutant healing factor and he has bone claws, but that's really it. He's not yet the Wolverine that we know at this time. Now, to tell you why I love this story so much, I think I need to pretty much recap this whole thing. After all, also, I think a lot of people haven't read this series, and I think that hopefully they will. So if you are going to read this, consider this a spoiler alert, because I'm going to just explain everything that happens in the comic book starting right now. Logan starts out with Wolverine in the modern day coming to an estate in Japan, and there he gets in a fight with some sort of fiery ghost monster. And it seems that somehow this creature is connected to whatever memory he has that's bringing him back to Japan. And from there, then the series immediately flashes back to the end of World War II. And Logan is in a Japanese prisoner of war camp, and an American is thrown in with him, Lieutenant Warren. And they're held captive, but they soon escape. And as they're wandering around Japan, trying to find a way off the island and a way to escape, they come across a civilian woman named Atsuko. Now, Lieutenant Warren immediately wants to shoot Atsuko, but Logan says, no, I will not allow that, and it's time for us to part ways. And he makes Lieutenant Warren leave, and then he goes off with Atsuko, who hides him away to keep him safe, because in that moment, Logan seemed to share something fairly human with Atsuko. And so then they hide together, and they quickly became romantically entangled with each other. And as that romantic entanglement is developing, we learn at the very end of the first issue that the city in Japan where they are is Hiroshima. So then in the second issue, it starts out again in the present day with the ongoing fight between Wolverine and this fire monster. But then we go back into the past again, and we get a flashback where Logan and Atsuko are bonding more and spending more time together as she's hiding him away until he can find a way to sneak away under the cover of darkness. However, they're interrupted by Lieutenant Warren, who just barges in, shoots Logan, and he appears to die. And that's when Atsuko then attacks Lieutenant Warren. They have a battle, him with his rifle, her with her sword, until finally Lieutenant Warren bayonets Atsuko in the heart. And by that point, Logan has recovered from his bullet wound, and he gets up and starts fighting with Lieutenant Warren. And as they fight, they realize that Lieutenant Warren is also a mutant. And similar to Wolverine, he cannot die. He can be damaged and hurt, but he feels very little pain, and he cannot die. And as they're fighting, they see a plane overhead, and it drops a payload. And that is when the bomb goes off in Hiroshima in 1945. And that issue ends with Logan staggering out of the wreckage and ruin of the bomb, half disintegrated, barely holding himself together, trying to move on. So in the third issue, we find out that the fiery ghost that Wolverine has been fighting with is the remains of Lieutenant Warren. He has never recovered from the fiery explosion of the nuclear bomb, and that's what's made his body as fiery as it is, because while he cannot die, he also doesn't really heal himself. So he's somehow, his mutant ability has caused him to remain this fiery monster that Wolverine is fighting. And in this fight, Lieutenant Warren gains the upper hand and tears out Wolverine's heart. And then he eats it. And somehow, through the magic of comics, this makes him flesh and blood again. And Wolverine does what Wolverine does best and still manages to come after Lieutenant Warren, even with his heart pulled out. And there in the snow, he decapitates him, finally defeating Lieutenant Warren. And as Wolverine slumps down, he realizes that the blood is rushing to this hole in his chest that will never truly be filled. And then Wolverine hovers on the borderline of consciousness between death and life. And in this moment, the spirit of Atsuko visits him and gives him a choice and says, "Your heart is rebuilding itself. I can make it so that all of your memories of Hiroshima will not come back, and they will be gone. The bomb, the pain, the Lieutenant Warren, all of those will be gone, and you won't have to remember all of that pain. But that will also include Atsuko, both the pleasant, fond memories, the loving memories that he has for her, and also the anguish of losing her." And that's the choice that Wolverine is presented with. And the story ends with him finally coming back to consciousness and watching the rising sun in front of him. So there are a lot of reasons why I love this story. One, it's about one of the most basic of circumstances, love and anguish and loss. By telling the two stories both in the past and the present, we get to see that both the love and the anguish of losing that develop and happen, as well as how Wolverine deals with it now as this memory of Atsuko finally is flooding back to him. The artwork in this series is incredible. Eduardo Risso's line art is rough at times, extremely emotive, exciting, and beautiful. And Dean White does amazing watercolor work on top of it that just opens up the artwork to lend so much emotion to each of the pages. It's really, really fantastic stuff. But what I think I like most about this series is that it asks a very, very big question, which is that if you could have the option of losing a particularly painful memory, but it also meant losing the wonderful memory that led up to that, would you? Is it worth it to hold the pain and anguish in our hearts, to also keep the love and cherished memories in our hearts as well? Or is it better to just have all of that go away so that we don't have to deal with either of those things, either the pain or the happiness that comes with it? And that is a question that I don't have the answer to. I don't know what I would do in that circumstance. I really don't know if it would be worth it to give up those cherished memories while also giving up that pain and anguish. And what I really love about this story is it doesn't answer this question, because we don't know what Wolverine decides in the end. He wakes up from his unconscious dream, visited by the spirit of Atsuko, given this choice, and we don't know what he decided. And I don't know what I would decide, but the fact that that question exists and is presented by the story so beautifully and dramatically is what really makes this story my favorite Wolverine story. Thank you for tuning in to Overthinking Comics. My name is Sean Neprud, and on this channel I like to talk about the comics that I like to think about, the comic books that make me think interesting things, the comic books, as in this case, make me feel really interesting things, and just share with you the reasons why I love these different comics. I have loved the Logan story since I first read it when I bought it when it was coming out. I was thrilled to share it with you as one of my early videos. I know I talked all about what happens in this book in this video, but please, I don't think that knowing what happens ruins the experience of reading this book, because this is a book where very much the experience and the emotion involved while reading the story really is what makes it what it is. So I really encourage you to check out this miniseries if you haven't already. And if you have, let me know what you think about it in the comments below. So until next time, remember to always overthink your comics.